We've all met that person, right? The one who is just supremely, unshakably confident, but, well, completely incompetent. Today, we're going to dig into the fascinating psychological reason that happens. It's a cognitive bias that, believe it or not, affects every single one of us. Think about it. Maybe you started learning guitar, or tried a new video game, or even just baked a loaf of bread for the first time. You have a little bit of success right out of the gate, and suddenly you get this rush, this feeling of, hey, you know what? I think I've got a real knack for this. Well, it turns out that initial feeling of confidence, it's actually the first step on a really surprising psychological journey. It's a journey that uncovers why we are so often hilariously wrong about our own skills.
So let's start with what I call the confidence paradox. This is the central puzzle we have to solve, and it's a real head-scratcher. Why is it that the less you know about something, the more certain you often feel that you know it all?
Okay, so this paradox actually has a name. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it was first identified way back in 1999 by two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger.
So what is it exactly?
Well, at its core, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias. You can think of it like a predictable glitch in our thinking. It explains why people with very little skill in something, say grammar or logical reasoning, can have the supreme, unshakable confidence of a world-class expert. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's actually a double-edged sword. It's not just that unskilled people are totally oblivious to their own flaws. On the flip side, you have the true experts, who often fall into the exact opposite trap. They underestimate their own abilities, thinking, well, that was easy for me, so it must be easy for everyone else. It's kind of like a form of imposter syndrome. All right, this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Why? Why on earth are we so bad at judging ourselves accurately? The answer lies in something that psychologists call the mind's double burden. So there are a few things going on here. First, there's something called a metacognitive deficit, which is just a fancy way of saying you don't have the skills to even see your own mistakes. Then there's the classic illusion of superiority, that tendency we all have to think we're a bit better than average. But the real key, the thing that unlocks this whole phenomenon, is that last one, the double burden. And honestly, once you get this concept, the entire Dunning-Kruger effect just clicks into place. It's a super simple but really profound idea. Let that sink in for a second. The exact same knowledge that would let you look at your own work and say, ooh, that's not quite right, is the knowledge you need to do good work in the first place. So if you don't have that knowledge, you're hit with a double whammy. You're burdened once by your lack of skill and a second time by your total inability to even see it. I love this analogy. It's perfect. Think about someone who sings horribly off-key. They don't just lack vocal control, they actually lack the trained ear needed to hear how off-key they are. Their tool for self-assessment is broken because it's the same as their tool for performing. Or here's another one. Imagine trying to measure a table with a ruler that's missing the first few inches. Not only is your measurement going to be wrong, but you'll be completely confident in that wrong answer because, hey, you're using a ruler. For someone in the grip of Dunning-Kruger, their own mind is that faulty ruler. Okay, so all of this actually maps onto the journey we all take when we learn something new. Let's look at how we go from this peak of false confidence, which some people hilariously call Mount Stupid, all the way to true expertise. So this learning journey is usually broken down into 4 stages. The Dunning-Kruger effect basically traps people in stage 1, unconscious incompetence. You are so unaware of how much there is to know that you literally don't know what you don't know. The real path to skill only starts when you finally get to stage 2, that painful moment when you realize, oh wow, I have a lot to learn.
And this chart just shows it perfectly. As a novice, you get a tiny bit of knowledge, and boom, your confidence shoots way up to the peak of Mount Stupid. But as you keep learning, you start to see just how vast and complex the subject is, and your confidence plummets down into the valley of despair. It's only after you push through that, after a lot of hard work, that your confidence starts to rise again. But this time, it's based on real, earned competence.
So where do we actually see this playing out in the real world? Let's talk about spotting the Dunning-Kruger effect in the wild. Honestly, once you know what to look for, you see it everywhere. It's the manager who thinks they're an amazing leader, but their entire team is miserable. It's the student who is absolutely shocked they got a bad grade because they were so sure they aced the test. It's what fuels the spread of misinformation online, and it's why some people might trust a 5-minute internet search over a doctor with decades of training. The chess example is a great little microcosm of this. You learn how the pieces move, you beat your friend, who also just learned, and for a split second, you feel like a grandmaster. You are completely blind to the entire universe of opening theory, endgame strategy, and tactical patterns that separates you from a truly skilled player. Your tiny pond feels like an ocean. Now, I know this can all sound a little bleak, but it's really not. And that brings us to our final and most important section: how do we actually fight back against this bias and learn to navigate our own blind spots? The antidote really is a mindset of humble awareness. It means you have to actively seek out honest feedback from people who know what they're talking about. It means practicing metacognition, literally thinking about your own thinking. The goal is to always assume there's more to learn and to never, ever confuse the feeling of confidence with the reality of competence. So let's be absolutely crystal clear on this, because it's the biggest misconception out there. This effect is not about being stupid. It has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, some of the smartest people in the world fall into this trap constantly when they step outside their area of expertise. This is simply a universal part of the human condition. It's about the natural blind spots that every single one of us has when we start learning something new. It's a feature of how our minds work, not a bug in any one person. And this quote just wraps it all up so perfectly. Incompetence hides itself. Your lack of skill is what prevents you from seeing your lack of skill. Meanwhile, true expertise can feel so natural, so effortless, that the expert forgets just how hard it was to get there and how brilliant they've actually become. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Whether it's asking a coworker for some real feedback on a project or just taking a second to question an opinion you hold with absolute certainty, what's one small step you can take this week to try and see what you might not be seeing?